Hey, welcome back. I'm Ferrikster. Here to bring you some more Pokemon Go Battle League battles. These battles are played in the Great League. I feel like I've finally kind of gotten a hang of the Season 8 meta, at least for now, until it shifts again in a couple of days or so. So, I'm opening Scrafty. I've been winning quite a few leads with this line, so maybe I'm just getting lucky and it's not actually that good of a team, but I've been playing it for the last 2 days, so that's 50 games altogether, and I think I've gone like 17 or 18 wins each day. So, seem to be climbing pretty consistently with it. I do have like a bad set here and there, but overall seems very strong. Opening with Scrafty. I am still running Acid Spray on this Scrafty, and I'm not really sold on that being the right move. There's definitely some times in this game and in others where Power Up Punch would have been the better move, but there's also been a few times where Acid Spray has turned out to, be the winning condition. So I'm going to try to point out some of those times, and I don't know. Got Skarmory in the back and Froslass in the back. Both of them resist poison. I haven't really been seeing as much poison as I was the first couple of days, but it's definitely still a lot more there than it has been in past seasons. And Skarmory has pretty good matchups with a lot of Pokemon overall. It has really great bulk, and the only thing that really walls it is like Bastiodon, of course. And then I've also got Froslass in the back, which has pretty decent play against a lot of things, also really gets kind of walled by Bastiodon, but other than that, pretty strong in a lot of situations, and functions well as a late game sweeper if you can get shields down and get a tiny energy lead. But, I don't know. Feels like a pretty synergistic team. The only thing that I think maybe I'm not sure about is, again, running Power Up Punch on Scrafty instead of Acid Spray. But since Acid Spray is still kind of a new-ish move, feels like it'd be a good idea to try to get a little bit of a handle on it. So I'm pretty sure I remember I botched this game. I sent Skarmory out because I thought I'd be able to reach the Sky Attack, and I just didn't. So Medicham ended up building up tons of extra energy, and I'm just not able to Powder Snow it down in time before it's able to throw this Ice Punch. And I needed some energy left over for the things that were left in the back, so GG to my opponent. But, Alright. So, Scrafty into Alolan Ninetales. This is a terrifying matchup just because if it turns out to have Charm, the Charm will chunk like 20-25% of your health off in one Charm. It's a lot. So I have been just instantly switching out when I see a Charmer, although most of the Alolan Ninetales I've seen for the last 2 days have been running Powder Snow, so it might be worth just kind of staying in instead of switching out, because you could potentially end up in a pretty bad matchup if you switch out. But, I swapped into Skarm, and my opponent switches into Umbreon. So that's actually fine. Skarmory can beat Umbreon if I land the Brave Bird here, but I just end up going straight Sky Attack because I'm not like as familiar with this matchup yet, and because my opponent switched out right away. If I was able to sneak in an extra Sky Attack, I could actually force the win on this. My opponent has plenty of excess energy, and opts to throw here. If I had snuck in an extra Air Slash, could maybe shield and just, then when it registers I would at least win switch advantage, but I don't really need it that badly because since this Alolan Ninetales turned out to be running Powder Snow, it's not actually that amazing against Scrafty to begin with, because my counters are hitting for neutral and you can see that it's really chunking a lot. I switch into Froslass here to try to catch the Weather Ball Ice, don't actually manage to do it, and he builds up tons of extra energy, so I figured this might actually be the Gleam, and it was. So good shield on my part. Now this move is coming out way too fast, so it is definitely the Weather Ball. Can absorb that, no problem. I build up a lot of extra energy before I throw this Avalanche because a lot of times they're just waiting for me to be energy dry, and when Froslass has a bunch of energy built up, it's a lot harder to switch into her. So, I'm going to throw this Avalanche since my opponent wasn't throwing just yet, and managed to actually take it out. And now there's just Deoxys Defense left over in the back, and we both have one shield, so this is actually fine. I shouldn't really be baiting here, there's no need. I should be going straight Shadow Ball. And even if my opponent were to, throw a Rock Slide, I could just shield it, and I would have been able to build up to a second one. I have no idea why I was playing this way. Like, I tried to switch out to Scrafty to maybe catch a Rock Slide or something, or a Psycho Boost, and I ended up not catching it. And then he Psycho Boosted here and is actually still able to just counter me down right before I get to the foul play, so that's terrible, but Froslass able to get to this Avalanche anyway. If he had double thrown Psycho Boost, his second, after I shield the first one, his second one, after he would be quadruple debuffed in attack, wouldn't have been enough to take me out. So he had to build up to a Rock Slide and a Psycho Boost. But I was able to take that game. GG. Alright, Scrafty into Obstagoon. This is fine. Scrafty definitely wins this matchup. He switches into Ninetales and gets in a Charm, and you can see exactly how much it does to Scrafty. It's just tremendous, tremendous damage. So I'm able to switch into my Skarmory. I was looking at this wondering, like, you know, if this was Obstagoon Double Charm. It's a pretty common line. If it is, I don't have amazing answers for that. I really need to get shields down so that Froslass can get some stuff done. But my opponent decides to no shield. Skarmory is able to Air Slash down Alolan Ninetales, and Obstagoon comes out. I'm going to build up to and then throw this Brave Bird. Was trying to maybe CMP with him so that he could throw the move and I would, you know, absorb that. But didn't quite happen. Scrafty comes out, and I decide to shield here because, I mean, even if this is a cross chop, it doesn't really do that much damage, but I don't need shields. If there turns out to be a Charmer in the back, I need health. So, is in fact another Charmer. It's a Whimsicott. Froslass has an okay matchup because my opponent saved both shields for Whimsicott. He's able to shield that Avalanche. I'm going to throw this next one. My Powder Snow damage is pretty substantial, but not quite enough. Shields that also. And if I had slightly better IVs on my Froslass, I could have gotten an extra Powder Snow in, and that would have made a world of difference. I'm still able to reach this Acid Spray here, and I thought it went out, and I thought I had desync CMP'd there, and I actually didn't. So I ended up eating an extra Charm, which is terrible. KO him with the Acid Spray, and then we simultaneous KO because I didn't throw the Acid Spray right away. So that's 100% on me. That's kind of rough having double Charm in the back, but I had win condition there, and I just threw it away with sloppy play. So Scrafty into Whimsicott, obviously terrible. Taking one Charm would be devastating, so I instantly swap out to Froslass, and my opponent responds with an Obstagoon. So I don't play this matchup out as well as I could either. I haven't had Froslass into Obstagoon in a really long time, and I sneak in a Powder Snow here, which means if I had shielded this, I would have been able to get to my next Avalanche before he was able to get to his next Night Slash. The Night Slash went through, and it did a little bit more than I thought it was going to. Again, slightly better IVs on my Froslass. Maybe would have changed that, because here I'm not quite able to get to the Avalanche. I'm still like 2 Powder Snows off, actually. So I end up bringing Scrafty back in, and I am just going to no-shield this cross chop this time, because now I have a Skarmory in the back, and Skarmory with a shield advantage might be able to get something done. And yeah, there's a Stunfisk in the back. So, not fantastic. Skarmory obviously has a pretty negative matchup with Stunfisk, but it's not actually that terrible. So I can survive 3 Rock Slides, but because I'm going to need Skarmory to have more health left over, because, you know, the charms add up, need to start shielding these after the second one. There's a case to be made that I should be shielding now, like not letting myself take this Rock Slide damage. After he throws the Rock Slide, I opt to throw my Brave Bird. And from here on, I will have to shield all the Rock Slides, because after that, they would be doing too much. So I'm going to shield here. I switch out to Scrafty here, and that's actually a mistake, because Whimsicott comes back in, and I'm just barely not able to get to my Acid Spray. If I was able to get to the Acid Spray, I'd be able to turn this game around, but my opponent still has a shield, and I am taking too much damage from these charms. Like, I should have stayed in and built up more energy on on G-Fisk, because the Mud Shots are really doing nothing, and I ended up going down with a shield, just got charmed down. Could have played that out a little bit better if I had just identified that win condition earlier. But alright, Scrafty into Azumarill. Obviously, this is a terrible lead. I swap out right away to Froslass here. I've done this both ways, switching out to Froslass or switching out to Skarmory, but every time I switch out to Skarmory, I seem to be met with a Galarian Stunfisk. Something about people who lead Azumarill are just playing hyper meta and have a G-Fisk in the back. Not that G-Fisk doesn't pair pretty well with Azumarill, it covers Azumarill's weakness to poison, which is not something we ever had to think about before. Definitely have to think about now. There's actually a Haunter in the back, so I wish I would have built up a little bit more energy on my Froslass. I go down right before I'm able to reach the Avalanche. Scrafty comes back out, and I am going to no-shield here. there's always that chance that it is Shadow Punch, Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball obviously is resisted by Scrafty, doesn't really do that much. So I no shield that, and I didn't realize this was going to be another Sludge Bomb, but he got there that quickly, so I'm going to let Scrafty go down, and now I'm just going to bring out Skarmory and Air Slash Haunter the rest of the way down. Goes down right before he gets to the Shadow Punch, or with the Shadow Punch. And hopefully Skarmory can handle whatever is in the back. Azumarill comes back out. I'm able to sneak in an Air Slash, which is nice. And I'm going to shield here because this Ice Beam is coming out right away, so that makes me think that they really want to do the damage, not bait and potentially, get the shield. Like if they had built up to the Hydro Pump, then maybe it would have been a better idea to no shield, but because they just threw the Ice Beam right away, it made me think they wanted to get into the damage. And sure enough, there's an Altaria in the back. The Sky Attacks do a lot less than an Ice Beam does. At this point, I'm going pretty low, and Altaria still has a shield. Gonna throw this Sky Attack. I don't get the shield, so I have to Air Slash the rest of the way down. I'm not quite healthy enough. My opponent doesn't get a bubble through, but I'm gonna throw the Sky Attack, get the last shield, and I'm gonna go down right before I get to the next one. Needed to get 3 more Air Slashes in. It was just, the bad lead was just a little bit too much to recover from there. So this is actually a 1.5 out of 5 win set. So that's pretty terrible. Why am I showing you these games? Well, I like to show you guys consecutive sets. I don't want to cherry pick my sets to cherry pick a bunch of 5 out of 5s. These 3 sets happened in a row, and I thought that there were better examples of gameplay in these than the first 2 sets, which were also strongly positive, mixed with the set in the middle. Had no choice to show you the set in the middle. It was in the middle. Just, I don't know. That's just the way I am with it. I'm just trying to keep it honest. The team obviously can run into bad team compositions, and if you don't play it absolutely perfectly, you can definitely go down. Sometimes even perfect play just isn't enough. Although I do strive to make teams that don't really shut down lines completely, have a lot of neutral play so that you can, make so that if you make strong enough plays, you can wiggle your way into a victory more often than not. Anyway, back to commentating. So this Hypno double shielded, which is really unusual. He tried to make a catch on Drapion, which is actually pretty great. Going to throw this Acid Spray, and I should really have just swapped out to Skarmory, but so that I don't get farmed down, but my opponent decided to not farm down anyway, just throw this Aqua Tail, and since he is switch locked, I'm just going to set in Skarmory because this Poison Sting does absolutely nothing, and these Air Slashes are doing kind of a lot. Because he has had his defense double debuffed already. The Aqua Tails do not hurt that much. Drapion's attack is not that high. It's actually a fairly defensive Pokemon, even though it really looks like it would be attack-oriented. Drapion is actually pretty tanky. These Air Slashes are just hitting something with a double defense buff. Imagine how little they would be doing if he was still at full defense. So, eating all of these Aqua Tails, and then he switches out into Hypno, which is actually a great move to throw this Thunder Punch. It forces the last shield out of me, and now I am going to throw this Sky Attack. This Hypno is energy dry, so I could really build up a little more energy, or should have undercharged that Sky Attack a little, but it had been a while since I'd hit a Hypno with a Sky Attack from Skarm, so I forgot exactly how much it did. But I switched out to Froslass to get an energy lead, because, Froslass with an energy lead is very dangerous, and my opponent resigns the game, so I don't get to find out what's in the back, but GG. Alright, next up, I got Fulcrum X. Scrafty into Nidoqueen. So this is not an amazing matchup for Scrafty. The play as Nidoqueen is usually to go straight Poison Jab, or to go straight Poison Fang, and then just Poison Jab down. So I usually like to absorb the first Poison Sting. You could also probably switch to Skarm and try to catch it, but some of them have built up to 6 or 7, or even to the Earth Power before throwing the Poison Sting, so I like to stay in and absorb it with Scrafty first, just so that Scrafty has some energy and Nidoqueen does not when I switch out. So my Skarmory is met with Umbreon. That seems to be a very common Pokemon to have in the back. And here I play this more correctly than I've played it last time, which is I throw the Brave Bird there, and now he is in Brave Bird range. Actually, if you throw the Sky Attack there, the Umbreon will just barely survive if the IVs are good, and my opponents tend to have very good IVs. So I just throw double Sky Attack, and I am met with a Scrafty, and that's fine. I'm going to send my own Scrafty back in, and because I have an energy lead, I'm able to throw this Acid Spray right away. If my opponent were to switch out to Nidoqueen, I'd still be able to just switch to my Froslass right away, and this is coming out really early, so this is definitely a pup. Absorb that, and I'm going to do the counter damage, because that's actually going to bring him down into Powder Snow range, because I've lowered his defense. So I sneak into Powder Snow. This is coming out too early. So it's just another pup, and my opponent switches out to Nidoqueen, and these Powder Snows are super effective, and my opponent resigns the game. GG. I think he maybe still had a little bit of play there. I think switching out might have been a mistake. Should have stayed in with Scrafty and just kept pupping and then tried to just poison jab down. Because, I mean, we all had 2 shields, and wasn't going to get that far ahead of Nidoqueen in damage. So, Scrafty gets met with an Azumarill swap in. I opt to throw my Acid Spray first before switching out to Skarmory. And that's, like, kind of a debatable play. Could switch out to Skarmory. Skarmory has a pretty decent matchup against Azu already. Wasn't really any need to debuff him first. But I really, really wanted to make sure I won switch advantage, and didn't want to let something like Bubbles getting snuck in, or, you know, Ice Beam baits into Hydro Pump. I didn't want to let that be a win condition for Azumarill. Just put its defense low so that I can just throw one Sky Attack and then take it out. And then my opponent brings in Marowak, which is very unusual. I'm going to throw this Brave Bird since I was built all the way up to it. It hits and does tremendous damage, and I get Fire Spun down. Opponent's at 6, 7, 8 Fire Spins. That's a lot of energy. At this point, because Marowak had so much energy, I probably should have thrown Acid Spray, because it was very likely Shield wouldn't want himself to go down with all of that energy. And since he built up to so much, I'm going to shield, because I was figuring maybe I was about to get Fire Blasted, but not so. It was just a Shadow Ball, but Shadow Ball also would do tremendous damage from here. So I'm going to shield this Shadow Ball also and try to counter the whole way down. My opponent doesn't want to get countered down, so switches out at the last second, and it's switched back out to Umbreon. So I'm going to throw this Acid Spray and then throw the next one. My counters are the thing that's really going to be doing the damage here. Umbreon obviously has a very strong matchup against Froslass. I switch out right here to catch the Last Resort, which is pretty much one of my win conditions here. The Last Resort does nothing, and now I am just going to Power Snow up, throw this Avalanche as soon as I can. I'm going to get hit with the Foul Play first, but I can definitely survive that. Wouldn't be able to survive double Foul Play, so again, if I didn't catch the Last Resort, I would be dead. I know. Managed to get that last shield. Switches out to Marowak and does 1 Fire Spin of damage, and now I'm like really, really low, but I'm just barely able to get to this Avalanche before that Snarl registers. I couldn't even have let the Marowak Fire Spin me down, because then he would have had a Bone Club ready. Which would have taken out Scrafty also, so a very, very narrow victory there. Just barely managed to hang on. Alright, Scrafty into Bastiodon. So this is obviously a very, very favorable lead. At this point, all I need to do is maintain alignment. I switch out of this Venusaur switch in right away, which I think is a mistake. I play that differently in the future sets. In the future sets, I just stay in with Scrafty for a while, build up some energy, so that and then try to catch the Frenzy Plant on Skarmory. Once you switch into Skarmory, all of Venusaur's built up energy really doesn't have anywhere to go, and if he's able to throw in the 1 extra Frenzy Plant, that's fine. It would just leave Skarmory a little bit lower. You don't want Skarmory to have tons of energy for Bastiodon, so as soon as Bastiodon comes back out, I just like to throw the Brave Bird instantly, just so that he gets fewer smackdowns of energy in. Because these Brave Birds, the Sky Attacks, none of them really do any damage to Bastiodon. And the goal is just to go down faster so that he doesn't get a ton of farm. And my opponent switches into Medicham, and I just bring in my Frostlass. Frostlass into Medicham, this is a very, very favorable matchup for Frostlass. The only way Medicham can win is if it baits power-up punches and lands a Psychic. I guess if it threw the Psychic first and landed it, that would also be fine. But I opt to no shield the first one, and sure enough, it is the pup. Then I'm going to throw this Avalanche. Powder Snow into Avalanche is 6 Powder Snows to the first, 6 to the second, and then 5 to the third. So with Power Up Punch, it's just an even 5 to each, and the Psychic takes 8. So if he double Power Up Punches and then throws a Psychic, if you have both double shielded everything, you'll still get to the Avalanche first, as long as the Medicham doesn't have an energy lead or you don't allow it to sneak in extra counters. So just have to be mindful of those 2 things, and you can easily take that matchup. And then leaves Bastiodon in the back, and I still have my Scrafty, so GG. Managed to take that game. Alright, next up into Ninja by Greninja, or Ninja X Greninja. Scrafty into Jellicent, also a very favorable lead for Scrafty. My opponent switches out right away into his own Scrafty, and I switch into Skarmory. If Scrafty goes straight power-up punch right off the bat and shields, double shields, can manage to just barely win this matchup, but actually the counter damage that I did with my Scrafty by being slow to the swap did enough damage that that's not actually, that I'm going to be able to air slash down if he, went that route. So I'm going to no shield here. It turns out to be the power punch, so that is a good move, and then I under tap so that I can get to the sky attack. Throw this and manage to, and Scrafty double shields. So it goes down 2 shields. Now I'm going to send out my own Scrafty. Since I've already seen Power Punch and Foul Play, neither of those moves is really going to do that much to this Scrafty. The Power Punch actually does quite a bit. And then I switch out to Froslass to get an energy lead. I have an energy lead and 2 shields. Jellicent comes out. I'm going to throw this Shadow Ball. It does not quite take the Jellicent out, actually. Jellicent can tank that. But I would be able to Powder Snow down and have a ton of energy left over, ready for whatever came out, and my opponent resigns the game. GG. Jellicent is a really great lead to see with this team. A lot of times they will end up switching out, and then if you can get an energy lead on Froslass, you can take it out very cleanly. I get a Regice, which is nice. Also called a Regice, just, to be consistent with, so that it's part of the Regi trio. And that was a 5-set to follow up my 1.5. So kind of, trying to redeem myself here, and I go back up to 2296. Oh yeah, I got my MMR reveal, and it was okay. But now I found my team, hoping to climb higher in the next few days. So my opponent swaps out right away to a Deoxys defense, and I stay in a little bit and throw this Foul Play to chip. And since he shielded, I switched into Froslass. If he had not shielded, I would have switched into Skarmory. So Froslass can take this first Rock Slide, no problem, and I'm going to go straight Shadow Ball because Avalanche would not KO from this range, and really want him to at least be forced to go down a shield, because then I can safely exchange shields with him and, maintain alignment. Because Bastiodon shuts down my backline fairly hard. I really just need to maintain alignment in this game. Waiting out my switch clock because they are desynced, and Medicham comes in. I am going to throw this Acid Spray to, again, just stall for time. You don't really need that much health on your Scrafty to take out a Bastiodon. What I have now is perfectly fine. Just going to throw the Acid Spray. I managed to lower his defense and then switch out. And now from here I can just air slash the whole way down. I don't need to shield anything from this Medicham. Resist Psychic, the counters are hitting for neutral, and the Ice Punch hits for neutral, and it just doesn't really do that much. I'm able to sneak in an extra air slash there, and I need to actually take a little bit more damage. So I stop attacking and let him counter me almost the whole way down, and then throw my final air slash and manage to take that out. I don't want the Bastiodon to get any more energy. It already had a pretty substantial energy lead from farming down Froslass. I throw this Acid Spray as soon as I can because I need my counters to do more damage. And my opponent obviously still has his shield. So he shields the Acid Spray, which would have done nothing, and I'm able to counter him down before he gets to his next charge move. GG. Managed to maintain alignment and barely hang on in that game. Alright, next up against Hirusan. Scrafty into Swampert. Swampert is okay for this team. It has an okay matchup against Skarmory, an okay matchup against Scrafty, and an okay matchup against Froslass. So I don't have to worry too much about switching out. I have more freedom in this kind of matchup to switch out to something if it feels convenient, just because I don't have to be concerned that the Swampert would end up getting alignment against any particular thing. So I'm going to shield here to kind of see what my opponent wants to do. He switches out to Sableye, and that's fine. I'm going to stay in and I'm going to throw this Foul Play, which will bring it pretty low. And here I make a terrible mistake, which is staying in because I thought I'd be able to reach another Foul Play, and I just barely did not. So now the Sableye has so much energy. And I am just going to have to no-shield this first Foul Play. It does that much damage to Skarmory. I'm going to end up having to take another Foul Play. Could shield it here so that Skarmory has a little bit more health, but I decided to just let it go and farm the rest of the way down. I'm still going to be able probably to get to a Brave Bird as long as something doesn't come out that can, hit me for super effective. And it is my opponent's own Skarmory. So I'm going to throw this Brave Bird, or Shadow Skarm, rather. I'm going to throw this Brave Bird, which puts it into Avalanche range. Here I was able to sneak in an extra Powder Snow, so after I shield this Hydro Cannon, which will do more than a Sky Attack would, able to Powder Snow the rest of the way down, throw this Avalanche. My opponent doesn't manage to sneak in an Air Slash, which is fantastic. And 2 more Powder Snows to reach my Avalanche, and the Skarmory is still a full Air Slash away from its Sky Attack, which I'm pretty sure I would survive anyway, even from a Shadow Skarm. Managed to take that game, GG. Alright, next up against Tommy Jones W. Scrafty into non-Shadow Swampert. This is a little bit better. My opponent switches out right away to Pelipper, which is a pretty hard counter to Scrafty, so that definitely makes me think that they probably have 2 hard counters to Scrafty, because if they had something that was neutral to Scrafty, they would have switched to the neutral thing. Normally. So I wanted to switch out right away, and I am going to try to maintain alignment here, but it is really hard to maintain alignment against a Pelipper that really, really doesn't want you to. Just because Pelipper is so much spammier. I throw this next Sky Attack as soon as I have it. My opponent sneaks in an extra Wing Attack, so that's not amazing. And here I'm up 2 shields, and I'm going to have to kind of accept that that's going to be enough. Like, I don't really have to worry too much about taking a Hurricane here. I'm just going to take this Weather Ball, and I don't have to worry about his lead coming in and shutting anything down. Swampert switches into my Froslass, and that's fine. I'm going to throw this Avalanche right away. It does quite a bit, but not quite enough. I probably should have actually thrown the Shadow Ball so that I'd be able to Powder Snow the rest of the way down. I guess that's something that I will just have learned as I've done it here, because I threw the Avalanche. Avalanche does slightly less damage than Shadow Ball does. If I had thrown the Shadow Ball, he wouldn't have been able to reach this Hydro Cannon. I would still have an extra shield, but that's alright. I have a Froslass with tons and tons of energy for whatever comes out. Not tons of energy, just a move stored. 1 move. And yeah, it's a Skarmory in the back. So I'm going to throw this Shadow Ball. It does a lot, but not quite enough. Here I'm going to end up having to take this Sky Attack. It does tremendous damage. I throw this Foul Play into this Pelipper as soon as my opponent swapped, because I'm pretty sure this Pelipper had quite a lot of energy left, and I really didn't need to get Wing Attacked down. Skarmory comes back out and Air Slashes down. It's getting really close, and it reaches its Sky Attack, but Froslass wins CMP, and I'm able to land this Avalanche and manage to take this game. GG. I could have made that easier on myself if I had thrown the Avalanche before instead of throwing the Shadow Ball. It would have taken 2 moves to take out Skarmory either way, so I didn't need to throw the more expensive Shadow Ball. But yeah, you play, you learn. Or at least that's the order I do things in. So, against the Alola Ninetales, this time I opt to stay in and start throwing counters instead of swapping out right away, because I have seen so many of them running Powder Snow and so few running Charm. Eat this first Weather Ball. My opponent didn't even build up to an additional move. That kind of makes me feel like they probably have Psyshock as a secondary move. I'm not sure it even comes up here. But if they had Dazzling Gleam, normally you would at least build up to the Dazzling Gleam. If you're running Psyshock, a lot of times you don't really think to do that first, because, there's no reason to throw Psyshock. You know you're going to be throwing straight Weather Ball. Here I make a mistake, which is I overtap on my move. I could have thrown a charge move there and 1 switch. Instead, I end up giving up switch, but I have a little bit of an energy lead on Froslass. So we'll see if that turns out to be a mistake. I got 3 Powder Snows in against the Swampert. So I am throwing my Avalanches when the Swampert reaches his charge move. I'm trying to CMP tie here, because since I'm ahead by 3 Powder Snows, and Powder Snow into Avalanche is 6-6-5. Mudshot into Hydro Cannon is 5-4-5. So, since I have exactly 3 Powder Snows in the lead, and Froslass is going to win CMP against the Swampert, as long as the Swampert doesn't sneak in an extra Mudshot, we will reach our 3rd charge move at the exact same time, and I can throw this Avalanche and take out the Swampert and have Froslass left over for whatever's in the back. Turns out to be Altaria, and I just throw this Avalanche as soon as I've got it. I managed to take out this Altaria. GG. This wasn't necessarily close because Swampert would have been fine against Altaria also, but, you know, just knowing the counts and being able to do that kind of calculation, just addition, really, it's not even calculating. It's just being able to add those numbers on the fly and recognizing that I was going to be able to win CMP on the third move enabled me to just kind of take that game a lot cleanly, and if there had been something other than Altaria in the back, I would have been in a better position to handle it. But anyway, my opponent here swapped into Venusaur, and I did the thing that I do now, which is throw a bunch of counters and build up energy with Scrafty first. Definitely don't throw a charge move with Skarmory. Just farm all the way down. You'll end up with about 100 energy, and, you know, if Venusaur wants to throw his charge moves at you, that is fine. It cannot take you out. And now Bastiodon comes out. I was expecting his lead Pokemon to come out, but since it's Bastiodon, I ended up throwing this Sky Attack. And here I make a ridiculous mistake, which is switching into Scrafty. There was no need for me to do that. The thing is, Sableye has a pretty good matchup against Froslass also. So Scrafty is kind of my MVP here. I figured if I switched out to Scrafty, you know, if I could just land one of these foul plays, I thought it would be enough. Turns out it's actually not. See, I didn't know the Scrafty into Sableye matchup that well because people have always swapped out of it. Here I end up shielding the foul play, and I'm going to end up having to shield the next one also because Scrafty is actually the only thing that has play against the two things remaining on this team. I was hoping to maybe get a bit of an energy lead. What I needed to do in this case would actually have been to Acid Spray at some point. So my win condition for beating this Sableye more handily would have been to land an Acid Spray in the first place. Now I am left unbelievably low. I'm able to throw this Acid Spray against this Bastiodon, lower its defense, so my counters will be doing a lot of damage. Throw 1, 2, and then I switch out here to transfer the damage from that second Smackdown. So I was able to get 2 counters in and only take 1 Smackdown of damage. That was just, like, if I had thrown 1 counter and then swapped, I would have taken the damage from that Smackdown. So I'm trying to maximize the amount of counter damage that I'm able to get in. So bringing Froslass here, I am going to end up taking this Stone Edge. I probably should have sent Froslass in instead of Skarmory. I thought after double debuffing him that the moves that I'm throwing here would have done a little bit more damage, but they actually just barely didn't. And if I had been able to survive, if I had better IVs on my Scrafty, mine is rank number 500 and something. If I had better IVs on Scrafty, I might have survived 1 extra Smackdown and been able to take that game, but as it is, I don't, so yeah, didn't manage, but I mean, that's fine. That's on me for just not actively trading my Scrafties more. And I go up to whatever I went there, I don't know. Kind of missed the end of that video. Alright, but yeah, that's my team. I feel very good about it. I feel very confident with the team. It doesn't really get hard shut down by anything. You have a lot of play in a lot of positions, and it seems really strong against the meta. So try it out. Let me know how that goes. Don't forget to do all of the other things also that you're supposed to do at the ends of videos. You know what I'm talking about. Do the things. I'll catch you on the next one.